I think that we could actually see a world where in-person sales makes a comeback and is super powerful. Like all our biggest customers and biggest contracts have been jumping on a plane and meeting those people face to face. So I think people will actually value human to human sales a lot more. And I think that like enterprise sales in particular is going to be done face to face because these avatars are going to become so realistic that like, am I actually speaking to a human? Am I speaking to an AI?
Hey everyone, Matt Curl here with Apollo, and welcome to Rewiring Growth, a series where we pull back the curtain on how today's most promising startups are going to market in the age of AI. In this episode, I spoke with Mark Hughes, the CEO and co-founder of Solid Road, fresh out of Y Combinator. We explored how they hit $1 million in ARR without a single SDR, the future of AI coaching, and what actually sets companies apart when everyone can build with AI. This show is brought to you by Apollo.io, the end-to-end AI sales platform built to help modern sales teams grow. Mark's a second-time founder, but he says building in the age of AI feels like starting fresh again. Let's hear why.
I'm actually a second-time founder, so in the world of AI, starting a company is totally different. It's like I thought I was going to take so much learnings with me and not make the same mistakes again, but it's like the rule book's been completely ripped up, so it's like may as well be starting afresh anyway. So to give you the context on what we're building, we're an AI training and quality assurance platform for customer experience teams. So primarily customer support, but also sales, customer success. So AI is like prevalent in every part of the business. We've built an AI first business. So we're looking at manual processes that were done before. So companies used to do manual role play training, classroom based learning. We're now like, how can we apply AI to like do that entire job of that trainer? And then also on the QA side of things, it's like, I've been there as a sales manager. I'm sure you have yourself, where you're reviewing calls, super manual. You're giving like feedback, but the feedback can vary from manager to manager. So having that objective nature and then full coverage to get an understanding of what's actually going on in the business. And like some of the efficiency gains we've seen in companies that we work with, like who used to have 40 QA analysts review 2% of total conversation volume and now getting full coverage across that. So yeah, it's crazy to see. And then with everything we do, like every decision we make, like before opening a rec, it's like, is there anything we can use AI here for? Like we're still a 6-person team. We've surpassed $1 million ARR. And yeah, I don't think that would have been possible in an era pre-AI. I think like Cursor is writing half our code and then all the other tools that we use along the way.
Amazing. I'm gonna go in a different direction. I want to come back to that opening salvo. Just in terms of like recruiting tips, what have you found? You know, what do you look for? How has it changed how you're looking for candidates? You know, even if you're looking for a traditional role, what kind of questions are you weaving in to understand if they're AI centered or AI centric versus not? Like, how are you all evaluating that today? I'm actually quite curious.
And this is actually funny because like we use it in recruiting and we actually use it on customer interviews. And it's like the best question to ask people I find is like, how do you use ChatGPT? And just like let them just like riff on how they use it. And it's like super interesting for us on the recruitment side. It's really cool to hear people how like it's changed their day-to-day job, how they might in a sales capacity. Obviously my background is sales and go to market. So how they might tweak their email cadences, like personalization is everything obviously. So like they might take someone's LinkedIn, how can they personalize that message? Like almost like use it as like an assistant. It's like, what else can I do here? Et cetera, et cetera. So hearing how other people use AI in their day to day is like a really interesting question. And then also like any AI tools they suggest. So it was actually like, I believe it was during an interview that someone told me about Granola, which is like a new tool I use every day to like capture notes, which is like, yeah, absolute game changer. So yeah, always interested to hear how people kind of use AI and I suppose kind of educate me at the same time.
Plus one, I think everyone's like learning. And so I think the really bright people, it's like fun to get a bunch of tips. You know, let me ask you a question. I love that you're a 2-time co-founder. You've spent time in the, I'll call it customer facing team. You know, some people distill that to GTM, but I think really customer facing team is much more encompassing. You've been in the space for a while. You've seen the same thing I have, which is support teams kind of got there first. And I know you have a background at Intercom. Why do you think that was, that support teams got there ahead of, for example, SDRs or AEs? I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I think that's generally what I observed over the last, 5-6 years is really the advancements were made in that support field first. Do you agree? Like, why do you think that was? And how do you think those lessons are being applied now to, SDRs, BDRs, sales, customer success, et cetera?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think why customer support first is just the repetitive nature of some of the conversations. Whereas like sales can be a lot more nuanced, customer success can be more nuanced. There is a world where you can probably like kind of look at a Venn diagram of how many conversations are coming into a call center, contact center, customer support team. And a lot of them are simple stuff like resetting passwords. And the way I look at it is that like tier one support, as they call it, is going to go away. And that's where we kind of come in, is that like training the tier two, the tier three, like the escalated conversations are going to become a lot more difficult. So that's kind of what we've built the business on, the thesis around that. But yeah, I saw it at Intercom. When I was at Intercom, we had like AnswerBot, which was like a decision tree logic bot that you had to follow. And if someone went one wrong step, they'd have to go talk to a human anyway. So that was super frustrating. And like people would spend so much time building out these bots, and like they'd be beautiful. Like you'd see them, but like yeah, it didn't really solve the problem. You kind of just got stuck in like, yeah, a cycle of bot hell. Now is the first time I think with the LLMs where like people are like, wow, this is actually really, really good. So to answer the question, I think it's why customer support first. I think it's probably the repetitive nature of the questions and how it's easier to tackle that. And obviously conversation volume as well. It's like you can really make a meaningful impact if you knock off 5-10% of tickets in a large contact center environment because the volume's so high.
Yeah, I love that framing of just, sort of the repetitive nature and where LLMs were, 5 years ago, or some of those models were 5 years ago versus today, where they're able to learn and adapt much faster. With that in mind, how do you all think about approaching even like SDR type of work? You're trying to go to market. You've got this, amazing backstory. You've got a great set of founders. You've got this Y Combinator, inertia behind you. And now you've got to use all that to go use AI to go generate leads, generate, sales for your teams. How are you all approaching AI in terms of your internal ecosystem for how you go to market, and how has that changed versus maybe what you would have done 5 years ago?
Yeah, 100%. Even like to take a step back, like my last company was a company called Grad Guide. We connect graduates with mentors a few years ahead of them on the career ladder to land their first job. 90% of those jobs were SDR jobs. So we'd help them get an SDR job. And in my last company, I had like 3 SDRs from day one to generate pipeline. We have no SDRs, and I actually don't know if I'm going to hire one or not. It's really like, should I actually just hire a team of full cycle AEs and have a lot of automation at the bottom layer to generate those leads? So to talk about the flow right now, how it works is we'll pull leads from Apollo, we'll push them into Instantly. I have, I think, 100 email inboxes set up from coming from me as the CEO. Those emails are constantly being swapped in and out. They're warmed up, they're etc. And those emails are being sent from me to our ICP, obviously, and then the replies come in, and I'm just kind of managing that one inbox, that uni inbox, and Instantly sending calendar links and getting those calls booked in. And we're getting about, like, from cold outbound and email, we get about 20 meetings a month from that. And that's like improving each time. So that's like our outbound strategy right now, which is funny. Like it's crazy actually to think that can all be done. And like we have personalization, using AI for personalizing the emails, etc. But yeah, no BDRs at all, no SDRs.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of that trend. There's a lot of thesis there that's the way to go. And I think Full Cycle is making a comeback from what I can hear as well. How do you think about the distributed tech stack? You've got sort of I'm not going to call it traditional tech stack. I think it's got a lot of AI, but in terms of the way you've cobbled it together, you're doing, very similar to what's been traditionally done, which is, have a CRM, have a tool for this, a tool for that, a tool for this, a tool for that. And there's a lot of integration and piping and plumbing work that goes into that. Where do you think that's going in the 3 to 4 or 5 year time horizon? Do you think it's still going to be a world of distributed tools, or do you think it's going to be more like a Square or a Workday where there's this central platform that is able to orchestrate and do it all? How do you think about the revenue space advancing?
I think there will be consolidation, and people no longer want point solutions, especially with AI. Like and product teams can spin up new products much quicker using AI, etc. So I think that we will see a world where we're kind of consolidated into like 1 or 2 tools. And I think right now our tech stack, as I said, is like HubSpot, Apollo, Instantly. And then we started experimenting with like a power dialer, which is something that we'll kind of bring online soon enough. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Like I could imagine like the bigger players in the space are going to bolt on more tools, and it will be a world of a one-stop shop. And to give you an anecdote, I was in Las Vegas last week or 2 weeks ago at the CCW conference, which is the largest contact center conference in the world, and obviously great conference for us. Everyone is building everything. It's the way I describe it. Like competitors we know that weren't in our space are now in our space. Like it's intense. Like and we kind of laugh, but like it's a bit of a race. We need to be pushing forward that we actually merit a place at that conference next year, because whereas there's 100 stalls there this year, I imagine there'll be 50 next year.
Yeah. So where do you see the differentiation for a company like Solid Road? When you think about that, it's going to become more fiercely competitive. It's the barriers to entry. I think even we want to talk about barrier of entry of I have to fundraise capital and hire programmers. That is a large barrier to entry. I mean, you've talked about how many times you applied to YC even before getting in. I think that's been an example of a historical barrier. Those are starting to go away. I think I read some interesting articles about the first $1 billion company by a single person is going to happen in the next like 2 to 3 years. Maybe I'll believe it when I see it, but I don't doubt it. I think somehow somebody will crack that code. But where do you see the differentiation long term for companies like Solid Road or even Apollo, where it's going to be easier to compete, easier to get into the mix? So how do companies like mine or yours really compete and differentiate in that phase? Where do you see that competitive advantage coming from of why they select you versus a different tool?
Two things that come to mind and like that we're doubling down on is like brand and distribution. Like they're the things that are going to set you apart. And that's why I think it's been really interesting in this AI wave that normally when a new technology comes along, the incumbents, they really struggle because startups can move faster. But there are good examples of more established companies that have been around that already have that distribution advantage that are plugging AI in. They're doing really well. So I know we mentioned like, obviously my background was from Intercom, but like you can see the resurgence at Intercom since they brought their deflection agent Fin online, where it was like revenue was stagnating and now it's like, boom, it's like they're back. It's like almost like a startup revitalized. But the advantage they have is they have like thousands of customers that has their help desk solution that they can sell into straight away. So I think like distribution's massive, and then brand, like I think something we've invested in heavily. We're trying to be loud. You can look at our website. We've got our Roadrunner mascot and really out there colors, and it's memorable and people talk about it on sales calls. So stuff like that is what's going to be the differentiator, I believe.
Very cool. I'd love to ask you about your product a bit on the same point of differentiation. I know one of the things that Solid Road really focuses on is coaching reps, and learning about how to coach reps, replicate that human coaching experience. How do you, I think the question I would ask for you is, in my experience, I think some great mentorship you get is a bunch of different coaches, and they coach you all slightly differently, and they provide different coaching experience and different coaching lenses. How do you think about really providing high quality coaching through, an AI agent, and how do you all think about that approach differently? And what do you believe is the winning solution long term in that type of space?
We've built the product around like the flywheel of our business is our scorecard, and we've made it super flexible and super customizable. So it's not like a templated rubric that you run for every conversation. It can be like tweaked. We've got a calibration tool where we can like thumbs up, thumbs down, tweak the prompt, and it's like we perfected over time, and they're swapped in and swapped out. So you can still get that like multitude of mentors and multitude of coaching with like the separate scorecards that are being run. So that's like where we have invested heavily. So we can be scoring based on soft skills, like, discovery in a sales situation, or active listening, empathy, but then process adherence. We have pass fail. We've graded marking. We have advanced settings around exclusion criteria. Like we've gone like super deep. Then we think deeper than anyone else on the market on the scorecard piece. And that's why we can give the richest feedback. And traditional like QA tools per se, it's very much like you get 5 out of 10 or like 6 out of 10. Whereas like we're giving like a paragraph of personalized coaching for each section of that scorecard that is tailored to that individual. So the way we kind of got it is like, it's like personalized coaching at scale. That's kind of what we've built in mind. And then that's not to say that you're not going to benefit from having a human coach as well. That's something that I have always valued in my career. Like I built my last business on it, and mentorship, and having someone a few years ahead of you on the career ladder that can kind of tell you how to do your job better or help you transition to your next role, or get promoted, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll still need that component of your life, I believe. Like I still have human coaches in my life, but I think for what we're taking away is the subjective nature of coaching, where one manager might say one thing about a call. Like you can see, like we'd sit around and listen to 5 sales calls and probably all score differently. So I think the objective nature is really, really cool. And then just the more consistency, getting more coaching. I've been there. Like I used to listen to call recordings on my phone on my commute, and then give feedback like on the fly, pull random samples. And that's one thing we see in the CX world, where people will be like, well, you pulled a bad call and that's why that call was bad. Whereas if you full coverage of all your calls, like you can't really hide. So I know that's kind of a long-winded version of how I see like the future of coaching.
No, I love it. I want to ask more questions on this. Just maybe 1 or 2 more. I think one thing I've observed internally, I've used even GPT for folks on coaching, where I'm telling them, I think the way they're communicating, their tone is not landing correctly. And it's been fascinating. Some real example from this week. I had a person send an email. I sat him down, put the conversation into the email and said, just, hey, GPT, critique the tone. And it was like shift blaming, overly aggressive. It sort of like laid out all these things. I really love what you're saying about that authenticity. One thing I've also noticed though is that so many of the LLMs are text-based. And there's people that learn, through reading. There's people that learn, visually. Some people learn orally. How do you perceive, sort of mimicking that human coaching experience? So if you and I, for example, are having a feedback session or a call coaching reporting, I think in the historical world, it's multi-format. It's we're having a dialogue, we're discussing, we're looking at the feedback together. It's a very rich experience. How do you see AI getting to the point where it can have that very rich experience and moving off of, maybe text-based feedback, which is a lot of what I see today, and getting to that really rich coaching experience? How do you see that advancing? When do you think we arrive where there's like a digital me talking to you like this type of situation? How do you see that sort of manifesting?
Honestly, I think we're almost there. Like, we're experimenting with AI avatars right now in the product. The best we've seen is Anim.ai. And I know the founders there, Quiva and Ben, very well, but it's been crazy to see the shift change. Like, I was in their office like a year ago in London and I was looking at the avatars. I'm like, this is so bad. It's like, this will never catch on, blah, blah, blah. And now I see how hyper realistic they are now. It's like, wow, like this is insane. And that's in like 12 months. So I know we're incorporating into the tool. We have some people testing it. I know other like well-known companies that have put those avatars, and like large established brands put AI avatars into the product. I honestly think like 6 to 12 months, it will be like a step change again, that it will be almost like myself and yourself speaking here.
Liz, my last question. If you had to say your hottest take 3 to 5 years from now, so we're 2030 maybe, what do you think is like the biggest prediction you would have for AI in the sales, marketing, customer success, support, that entire go-to-market, customer-facing team stack? What is like your biggest prediction of what you think is going to be the hottest take you've got personally?
I should really have given this more thought, seen as like I'm building a business in this space. I do believe that the future will be hybrid. I'm a big believer in sales in particular. Like, people buy from other people, especially people they like. So I think that we could actually see a world where in-person sales makes a comeback and is super powerful. Like, all our biggest customers and biggest contracts have been jumping on a plane and meeting those people face to face. So I think people will actually value human to human sales a lot more. And I think that like enterprise sales in particular is going to be done face to face, because these avatars are going to become so realistic that like, am I actually speaking to a human? Am I speaking to an AI? I think that's one hot take I have on the sales front. On the support side, I believe like your outsourced BPOs won't exist anymore. I just don't think that like the kind of labor arbitrage of those tier one BPOs will exist. I think AI will take those conversations, and I think that a lot of them are worried about that. So I think conversations on the support side, you'll still have lots of conversations, but the tier one is going to be gone to AI completely. Regardless if it's voice, chat, whatever it is, it'll be done by AI entirely, and it'd be almost like a concierge service for support to speak to a human. And then likewise on the sales side, like enterprise sales is going to be all done in person.
That's a very hot take. I've heard something similar before where someone very similar said, I think we'll get such a high deflection rate that we'll basically have quality engineers and deflection, and the QEs will basically handle the deflected tickets. So I agree. It's a very hot take. Just one quick question for you. If I were a company today and I'm evaluating what type of tool I should be using for coaching my teams, thinking about the advancement of customer success, customer support, even our sales teams, how should I be thinking about Solid Road? What advice would you give me? Why should I look at Solid Road and evaluate you all?
Where Solid Road really comes in is if you're a company that's looking to reduce ramp time for your reps and getting them live quicker, save hundreds of hours of manual work each week with training, enablement, and QA, and upskill your team at scale. Like, we are the company for you. So you can check us out at solidroad.com. We have an interactive demo on our website you can check out. If you book a demo on our website, you can speak to one of our sales team. You might be lucky enough to speak to me because, as I said, still a small team of 6. So I could be running that demo with you. So if that is the case, I'd love to chat.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Mark, for your time. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and really enjoyed our conversation. Got to learn a lot from you, and thank you for coming on and talking with us.
Super. Thank you very much for having me. Big fan of Apollo, and it's great to meet you.
Thanks. Likewise, Mark. Take care. That's a wrap for this episode of Rewiring Growth. If Mark's insights about building an AI-first business resonated with you, you can connect with him on LinkedIn or check out solidroad.com. Otherwise, subscribe for more conversations with leading minds at cutting-edge and high-growth companies. Drop your biggest takeaway in the comments below. I'd love to hear what stood out to you. You can always find us at apollo.io. Thanks for joining.